I've been on a low, I've been taking my time. I feel like I'm out of my mind. It feel like my life ain't mine. Who can relate? Woo! I've been on the low, I've been taking my time. I feel like I'm out of my mind. It feel like my life ain't mine.
All right, guys, welcome back to Project Mayday. This is G and Bree. Today we have Darnell Dodson II. This man is 36 years old from LA County Fire Department. He's a firefighter paramedic, and he grew up in Long Beach, grew up in the surrounding cities, and with that, he's got a lot of stories, and this man is very powerful when he speaks, and he's got this thing that he's adopted where he puts calls into a short-term memory and then kind of moves on. So with that experience, we want to have you on, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on and taking time out of your day, and welcome, Darnell.
G, Bree, thanks for having me. It's a great opportunity to be a part of what you guys got going on here. I'm looking forward to it. You know, I was going to get prepared, but then I was like, for what? Just be myself. And it's really me. So let's really do this.
Absolutely. Let's start that conversation. So, Darnell, I want to really touch base on how you started in the fire service. I know you got a good story, so let's start with that a little bit.
Okay. For me, it was the EMT basic route. Early on in my life, my cousin had gotten injured. Fire department showed up, and they took care of him. He had some ailments throughout his life from his injury. I won't get into too much detail about it. But, as a young kid, I always thought, man, that was cool. They took care of my family member, and they were nice when they came, and, they gave me a sticker and things like that. So I had always had it in the back of my head, a lot of us kids growing up, oh, I'm going to play in the NFL, I'm going to be in the NBA. But, the fire service was always something else.
Yeah, with an 11-month-old, right?
Yes, yeah. I have an 11-month-old son, wife of 5 years. Luckily she's been around for, all of the preparation to get where I'm at. My first ambulance company, she was around. So she's kind of known this has been the thing, and she's very well about the schedule and everything. But you throw that curveball of a baby in, and, I might go to work and run a couple calls after midnight. And if she's at home, she's basically running a couple calls after midnight too. We're trying to come in and check on each other, but everything's good, man. I can't complain.
Okay, so Darnell, I know you just came back from a deployment, and I also want to point out that CalFire Statistics and events, as of 2020, combined year to date, this year, 2020, CalFire and U.S. Forest Service, there were 9,069 fires and over 4 million acres from January 1st to November 1st of this year. So can you tell us a little bit about your deployment experience?
And it's going to be interesting, or I think it's interesting, because these are some of my very first deployments. As G has mentioned, I do have, 8 years in the fire service, but, just recently coming to LA County Fire Department, I'm really starting to get that wildland experience. So I just went on 2 deployments recently. One was for 7 days, and the other was for 4 days, kind of immediate need kind of deal. And, it was something to get used to as a newer wildland firefighter. You're still going through the things of, what do I need to put in my bag? Do I have enough pants? Are these right socks? I got fun toes. Is this the real, the real stuff? And, guys telling you, hey, get the leather laces instead of, these ones, or, lube your laces up. And like, these are things, I didn't think of. So I had those early wildland firefighter experiences, along with, the being away from the family. Just figuring out base camp. As you guys know, base camp is a monster within itself if you've never been there. Somebody told me, hey, make sure you take Windex and paper towels for the windshields, for the engineers. I'm like, all right. So, I take it with me, and sure enough, I'm like Johnny on the spot, like, oh, I got you, sir. Don't worry about it. Wipe it down. Those early things that come with it, that was a really good and informative experience for me, especially from the first one to the second one. The comfortability that I had in the second time getting deployed, was evident, at least to me. Maybe everybody else didn't see it, but no big deal. We had a lot of structure protection. My first time was on a type 3. So, for the first time going out and a guy getting to go do type 3 work, it's like, man, this is you can't beat it. Mm-hmm. Then the second time was more of a structure protection type of deal. So I mean, you guys know, how to do it, what we're doing here, pulling the hoses and making sure that the homes are okay, looking out for embers and stuff like that. But camping was new. I packed my sleeping bag because they're like, hey, you need a sleeping bag. Get a jet boil. Maybe you should, take all these snacks with you. So I'm, trying to figure out what I need and things. And I had a great time. You're out there with at minimum 3 other people on your immediate rig, and you guys are family for that time. Whether you get along or you don't get along, you're trying to help somebody else's situation out. So that was all good. Something to get used to was definitely being away from the family. And, like we brought up, I have the 11-month-old at home. So, yeah, being 8 hours removed and not being able to, just hop in my car and go, back home to the family or, to visit my son. Or if something happens, I'm 8 hours away and, I got to the chief has to get another firefighter and all these phone calls got to be made. You're not trying to cause that type of ruckus, people. So, that was different, but I can thank Steve Jobs for when I did have some service that, I could FaceTime. So I could at least see him. It's like, oh, it's cool. Yeah, he's still drooling on himself. Perfect. I'll be back in a couple of days, no big deal. And, to check in with the wife and, have a live interaction. Look at what COVID has done to the world and how you're having to have your podcast. We're doing this through, FaceTime and, whatever other programs that we're using. So it's nice to have that around to be in contact with them. But then also to learn from the other guys and pick up, things that I should be doing out there, what to look for, topography and wind, and you guys know all those things. So it was an interesting experience. I embraced it. I actually look forward to going back out. I think maybe I didn't, but I did work in Vegas in Clark County Fire Department for a firefighter for 3 years. So my family was never down there with me during that 3-year period. So I'm in that aspect that my wife she's gone a couple months without seeing me. And, she's kind of used to it. So if I'm going for a week or two, it's a deal, but it's not a big deal for her. So I'm lucky in that aspect. But there's growing pains, that come along with it also. Hey, I'm not there. The sprinklers broke or the shower head just popped off. Little things like that. Like, okay, just do this for a day or two and I'll be back. Or, where's your brother? Call my brother.
So did you get a chance to work with any con crews?
On those 2 deployments, I did not. But of course, my department, they do a lot with the inmate crews, with the foreman and training and, taking those guys out to the fire and whatnot. And, with the minimal experience that I have in that field of the fire service, all I hear is good things about the inmate fire crews and how much work that they put in and how hard that they work. And, some of the senior guys in the department, they're like, hey, you don't want to be on that crew. They're doing real work. They're the real firefighters, and it's true. You see what those guys are doing out there. So, major respect for what they got.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like to highlight that because I feel like people who are not in fire, they don't really understand how much work those inmates actually do. And of course they're non-violent offenders and, what have you, but they're very respectful and that's an honorable job to have. They have a special training and they really are bringing it to fires. And I really like to highlight that because sometimes I think people, they get overlooked of course, but I really like to highlight that because people they wouldn't know that, how closely that they work well with all the different fire departments and with trainings.
Right. They're pretty much a part of the team, and they're a big part of the team at that, the groundwork that they put in. So major respect for those guys putting themselves in position that, they did something negative that got them in that position, but they have made the adjustments to have the good enough behavior to be fortunate to join the fire crews and put that type of work in and be respected as that. So I do commend that program.
Yeah. So you were talking about growing pains, when you first got deployed out to these fires. Could you talk a little bit about those growing pains? Like when you got back to the house and you and your lady were talking, what were the conversations like?
For us, I think again it's going to reach back to those being some of my first experiences. So, there was the wow factor of, man, I was really out there for 7 days and I was camping. Like I mentioned to you guys a little earlier, I haven't really camped that much. I'm not much of a camper, so that was a whole new experience too. So to come home, and of course she knows I'm not a camper. She's my wife, so for her to tell her a story about me sleeping or resting 30 feet away from some cows and coyotes, going around and looking at bulls and not that was a pain. It was more like a growing experience. Mm-hmm. And now it makes me a little more comfortable to take my new son and my wife out to, let's go do some camping. I figured out this jet boil thing. That was cool, but, being away and talking about what happened throughout the house, over the days and, when you're out there, on the line and you don't have service, you can't even send that text message or, get that confirmation back. And, we've gotten to where, I remember one time we got to where we had finally gotten service and I had, missed calls from my wife or messages just, hello, hey, anybody there? How are you doing? So it's nice to get back and, talk about those things and being away and planning for next time. But, hey, I was only gone for 7 days. This could be 14. And, at least having that 7-day experience between my family and I, we kind of know how to prepare and, how to set up. Of course, you don't really know in advance, you got the red flag weather and all that, but as much as you could prepare ahead of that, we talked about those things. There's really nothing negative, other than me being gone, but there's also a good part to it too, which is like, hey, I miss my family when I was gone. You get an opportunity to miss them and actually embrace them for that hug because you're so used to seeing them all the time. You might take little things for granted. So it's like, come here. Oh, you fresh out the shower? Let me smell your hair real quick. Oh, okay. Here's herbal acid.
That's beautiful, man. I found a sweet spot. So you're talking about, I don't camp either. So I found a sweet spot in the engine. So you open up that hose bed, you take your sleeping bag, and then you shut it back on top of you. So you're just between that hose that LDH and the top end. That was a sweet spot.
Try that out. See, I'm still picking up new things. Yeah.
Was there ever a time on the deployment maybe people didn't get along because you're out there for so long, you are given food that they give you. I mean, you can't really hand select unless you bring your own snacks. You're maybe not sleeping that well, maybe laundry, cell phone coverage is an issue. Did you notice maybe people were short-tempered with each other or was everyone kind of in a good mood?
With these two deployments that I had, everybody was generally in a good mood. I think it's normal to go through, those things, being tired and, not sleeping well and, waking up or, backs hurting or, things like that. Not having those normal amenities that you already have. But, we got along really well. You start to figure out, the first time I was with 3 guys that I had just met. Hey, nice to meet you. We're getting on this rig and we're gone for however many days. We'll be back when we can. So it's not only, I'm there to help people, but I'm learning my crew at the same time that, we're going to do this. So you start to pick up little things about their personality, things about mine, and the more comfortable you get. I mean, you know how us firefighters are. We start poking and prodding at each other and, I was just going to get them to laugh. So we're playing target practice with each other and stuff. So it was good. It was cool. I think it was laid back for the most part. And I think, being grown and being adults, when you need to reel back and not do too much talking or too much interacting. I think we had a mutual respect for each other in that aspect that, if we noticed somebody was short that day, we just let them be short.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you take next time on your deployment? What's the thing in your bag that you missed?
Man, I think I over prepared. I was the guy with the neck pillow. I had the sleeping, the 0 down sleeping bag. I had the air mattress to go under it. And, I had a lot of guys tell me what to bring. I didn't bring a jet boil, and other people had them. And my crew was enjoying. Other people's jet boil. They got cheers going on and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, okay. Next time I'll have a jet boil. So that is one thing I want to add. Firefighters and coffee are. It's like, wake get some air. We need that just to get going. So I think the jet boil is going to be one of them. I think I was over prepared, man.
Yeah. As far as the mental health aspect goes, when people go deploy, you were gone for 7 days. The people that are gone for longer, you put yourself, and you haven't been gone for, it's 14 plus days. So could you put yourself in their shoes and kind of talk about how mental health could take an effect on if somebody's gone for that long?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one thing I thought about when I got back is like, okay, I did 7 days, everything went well, the house didn't fall all the way apart. Man, I wonder what 14 would feel like. I actually thought about that and tried to put myself in those shoes. And I could see how, being gone for that many days, because I was getting to the point at 7 days, like, man, I want to see my son. Or I can't wait to get home, and guys, started talking about, hey, if we get, a demo from this fire, let's try to get reassigned to something. And I'm all for it. But the longer you get into it, it's like, man, I do kind of want to see my family. Like, that would be nice. And with my son being younger, I'm thinking, geez, is he going to remember me when I get back?
Yeah, that's a real concern.
Absolutely. Is he going to, I'm going to put my hands up to hold him. Is he going to turn his shoulders, the other way? Or so you start to think those things more and more, and you can spiral down. I can see how somebody could spiral down if you don't have a grip on your own mental health, and if you don't have those good interactions inside the rig with the crew that you're working with. If you guys aren't getting along, that compounds on what you're already mentally going through, and the things that you're thinking about. Me having a bad interaction here with the crew member could lead to me wanting to be home that much more. And I have a pissy attitude or a more beat up attitude, or now I'm the short person because this guy said something I didn't agree with, and my son's crying, and I can hear when I talk to my wife, I wish I could help her out, kind of thing. So I could see how that could absolutely affect these guys. And you're putting work in, you're trying to be as hydrated and as fed as possible, and you're used to a specific diet. I'm sure when you're at home, what you like to eat. And, you get that little sack lunch, and it's like, here you go for the day. Make it happen.
Call them the snack nasties. The snack
right. Can you handle the Uncrustable of the day?
What Uncrustable is your favorite? The strawberry or the grape?
Man, like it's got to be the strawberry. Everybody gets excited. Everybody gets excited over strawberry. It's like people are against grape. I'm not gonna lie. I'm trading strawberries for grapes. I'm like, yeah, let me
You're
have
back
it.
in elementary school, trading your lunches. What you got?
And it doesn't have the crust on it. What are we doing here? Let's have a good time with this. Uncrustables you can't go wrong with. We took those burritos that come with the foil. We found a down snag out there. It was still burning. We set that burrito on there. We warmed the thing up, and we had a good time, man. It was I'll eat whatever. I'm out camping. I'm having a good time with the boys. We're dirty. We need showers, and we got. And that's what we're doing, and we're helping out these people that are losing their property. And, it's bittersweet. It's sweet. For us, we got a job. It's bitter for those people that we're trying to help out.
Darnell, you said you were doing structure protection as your assignment on your last deployment. And actually, California of this year, there was over 2 million structures that were threatened. And so for you, when you were doing structure protection, did you see any civilians? Were you ever nervous with like a wind shift change or anything like that you might have to deploy your burn shelter? Did anything like that occur, or was it pretty low key?
I think we definitely had some fire front coming towards us, and we definitely put some packs in, and we fought some fire. We definitely, checked for those embers going over us to the houses. We tried to get out there and actually kind of knock this thing back from getting any closer. If we can wet it down and keep those embers from flying, well, then we're doing even better as structure protection. I never felt like I had to deploy my shelter. And then, especially me as a new guy, I'm lucky to have a captain that had a ton of experience. He's, 2 or 3 years away from retirement and spent a lot of time on some of these deployments and these assignments, and even just the grass fire experience. He had a lot of that. So his demeanor and his comfort helped me out as a firefighter with
Absolutely.
my uncertainty in these new areas. So it was good to have him around because he's like, no, let's go this way. We'll go a little harder. And no, we're good. We're in the black. And you know those things that I might not be jumping to because I don't have that experience. He's able to jump to them, take me with him, and teach me about them all at the same time.
Mm.
You know, I really love this because Project Mayday, we want to highlight all different perspectives. You are super upbeat, you're very positive, and you said, you know, leadership really played a role into your mental health. Probably you trusted him, and I'm assuming it's a male. That's my own assumption. But you trusted your leader, you trusted your fire captain because he had all this experience, and because he was calm, you also in turn, you know, felt confident in the assignment, in your situation. And I think that's really important that not only do we have people with 20 plus years of experience, but we have you who's 8 years in, really excited, really transparent, which I'm hoping that goes into the next generation of firefighting, that you're, you know, hey, I'm an open book. And I feel, I mean, that's really inspiring. And also people listening, they might not have any idea what a deployment is like for a California wildland firefighter. Well, technically you're LA County, so not a lot of wildland typically without deployments. But I think it's really important to highlight just different perspectives. And I really like that you talked about how you're, you know, your captain kind of led the way for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, I love the fact that you are so open, man. And I think that has a lot to do with how you got brought up. You know, in Long Beach and in the surrounding area and the stuff that you dealt with then. So I really appreciate you being open. So let's go more into, you know, the mental health side of it as far as just regular calls. You know, you don't have much wildland experience, so maybe. Are you dealing with any calls that you're still, you know, that you've dealt with in the past, but you're still coming up now? You know, you're driving and you'll just think about it, and you know, anything that still bothers you today.
Right. Yeah, like you stated, you know, I don't have much of wildland experience, but I have been a medic for 8 years, 3 years in Las Vegas for Clark County Fire Department, where we did have the strip as part of our response area. I work for Pasadena Fire Department and now with LA County Fire Department. As you guys know, or as I mentioned to you guys before, is I try to approach things with that short-term memory. And G, just, you know, knowing you through talking, I know that you play basketball. So, you know, if you make a mistake in the first quarter, you can't take that into the second quarter. Because if you know, whatever it was, whether your shot got blocked or you turned the ball over or whatever it was, if you take that in mentally with you, you have that on you. You know, if you can picture what I'm saying, if you have that weight on you, it's going to slow you down in the second quarter. So, you know, what I do on call 1, the call 2, the call 3, you know, I engage in call 1. I'll give you everything I got. And, you know, if we're going to the hospital, let's do that. I'll drop you off. But once we leave the call, I need to get myself ready to go to call 2 and give them 110% if that's what it requires. So I think that short-term memory and growing up in sports kind of helped that. You know, learning to bounce back from your mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect out here. You have to be able to recover. And I think, yeah, just in general as a firefighter, how do you recover? We plan for things to go wrong. So plan for how you bounce back also. So my short-term memory helps, but also talking to my partner about the call. You know, if it's like, hey, you know, what can we do better? Or, you know, I have no problem saying, man, I felt bad for that lady. Or, you know, it was terrible seeing that family like that. Or they really had a very good family. You know, they really took care of their great-grandmother. Like, yes, you know, she has Alzheimer's and, you know, all these things going on, but that family is there for them, and it's nice to see those things. So you have some of those negative experiences, and then you have those positives, and, you know, you kind of think about both. But the cause that will stick with me the most so far has always been kids. The infant drowning, the pediatric cardiac arrest, the traumatic calls. And I didn't even have kids at this time, but at one point, especially early on, I got to tell you the story. It's my first 2 calls as a medic for Clark County Fire Department in Las Vegas. My very first day, right out the gate, 0700 pediatric cardiac arrest. And I'm being precepted, it's time to put on a show, and it's in a lower income neighborhood, and everybody's outside already as we approach. The neighbors are there. They're crying. They're screaming. The family's inside. They're crying. They're screaming. And the kid is in cardiac arrest. So, for that being one of my first calls to go on, I would wake up at times and I could see that infant's face, for a little while. And so my very next shift was a pediatric cardiac arrest at 0700. 2 shifts in a row. That's how I started it off as a newer firefighter. And so for a little while, I did see their faces. And, like you're saying, any calls that stick with me that I still see, 8 years later, every now and then I'll see those infants' faces. It's sad. It was something I experienced, and, you relive some of the call. And then you kind of press forward. I think I'll come to grips with it myself, or, if it comes across my head, I'll lean on my partner. Hey, man, I got to tell you about this call I went on. And I think talking about it, being open about it, admitting things, when you're wrong, when you're right, or, when you made a mistake, or I think that helps you heal. And I'm not even saying that I was, injured by it. We're tough. We're macho firefighters. It's okay to say something bothers you. Feel it. Let that feeling happen so you're not holding it in. You take up a soda bottle and it's trying to hold in all that you shook up. That thing's trying to burst.
Mm-hmm.
So, do yourself the same way. You have those feelings, be open. I think that's why we have our kitchen tables.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why we cook and we learn each other as a family, so we can be open and we can learn from each other. And, you can put some of those things off on your partners, and they can say, oh, yeah, I had a call like that before, or that does suck, or you never know what your confirmation to feel better might be,
Mm-hmm.
or just the fact, or what you may or may not learn from it just talking to another person about it. Short-term memory, that's my go-to, and trying to be ready for that next call.
Do you think that those pediatric codes, do you think it affected you now on your own child after you had your own kid? Do you think it impacted you as a parent, or do you think that those calls, they were so long ago that you've processed it and it doesn't affect you as a parent?
I think a part of them being longer ago doesn't affect me as a parent. But again, I haven't seen it. It's been 11 months with my son. I haven't seen, traumatic to a kid around the same age as mine, in these times right now. Seen it in the past. But I think not even the short-term memory, because this is something that's going to stick with me, but coming to terms with those calls have also helped me. That's just something I remember, but there's a ton of calls out there that I still see, that I still relive, that, they make, some of them make great story time around the table, conversations. I think I do, because I've been on, some other calls, and, it doesn't affect me like that to where I can't go perform.
Mm-hmm.
What makes, I've already tried to train myself in this facet that I will, if I do see something like that, I'm going to call my wife. Hey, how's he doing? Or, it's FaceTime. Let me see him. Just check in and, just to see that my home is okay and be there for that family as much as possible. I think, as long as I give them that 100%, that 110%, make sure they know that I gave them everything that I had, I think that'll also make me be able to come to grips with it also. With seeing something like that and knowing I did do everything that I could. Yeah. If, you see a situation like that and you didn't give it your all and you have that regret to go along with it, that might tug on you a little different.
Absolutely. And, with Thanksgiving coming up, with Christmas coming up, there's going to be that pediatric call, choking,
oh man,
drowning. We've all been there. And so let's say, you said you haven't experienced, the same age as your son. However, you might, right? And so, God forbid that does happen. And, next few months that does happen. How are you going? What are some things that you do to de-stress? and battle your way out of that.
Right. I think the immediate, right, because you can have that call within that 24-hour period you share with your crew. I think the immediate is talking about it amongst the crew, and then letting that conversation boil into what it boils into. And it might go from sad to now we're laughing about something, or we're talking about something else. I think the immediate conversation about the call, or hot wash about it. I think that helps out just to verbalize it. So again, that we're not holding that in, and taking that into the next call. Having a good leader, a captain that says, hey, you know what, guys, meeting in the kitchen. Let's talk about it. Not knowing his crew, or even knowing his crew, and just saying, hey, I want to talk about it, opens the floor up for these guys and gals to let out what they're going through. I think that's my immediate. And then for me to de-stress, like when I get in my car and I'm going home from work, my first thing I do is call my grandmother. I check in with her. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a family-oriented person, for real. I call my grandmother. I check in with her. We laugh, we joke. I can't wait till I work down the street from her so I can stop by and have that cup of coffee with her in the morning. But my windows are up. My music is loud. I love music. And I'm finding something energetic to listen to. Or whatever.
Better be bumping Pac, man.
Man, right? It might be that mood that day. It might be jazz. It might be, you never know. So whatever it is, that helps me out a lot. Working out. Go push out some of that aggression. And at the same time that, whether it's aggression or whatever it is, go work some of it out. Go de-stress by throwing some weight around or doing some cardio, pushing yourself a little bit. And that helps me out. The biggest thing for me, and you guys are pretty much, other than some close partners that I had, are going to be the first to know that, besides my family, that prayer. I say a prayer. I pray in the morning on the way to work. I don't pray for myself. I pray for other firefighters. I pray for the patients and the victims. I pray for the doctors and the nurses. And then just knowing that I'm going into work and all these people are, prayed for, those things help me out. And I think that keeps me calm and peaceful, and I can get around with everybody, get along with everybody else. And if somebody else having a bad day, I can lean on them and help them out.
Darnell, you're so inspirational because you just hit on all the aspects of mental wellness. Your physical mental wellness, you work out, your connection, right? Just your soul. You're talking to your grandma, having those connections, prayer, you're spiritually healthy, and you ground yourself. And I think, people listening can hear how energetic you are. You're full of life. You're very positive. You turn a negative situation, like we just talked about with some calls, into a positive, how you've dealt with it, talking about it, transparency, and you're really inspiring. So I'm so thankful you are on this podcast, because we don't always want to highlight the worst calls, right? We also want to highlight how can we be here and really mentally well. And I think you are such a great example. If you had to give a word of advice to someone starting in the career, either EMS or fire, because that's your experience, what would be your word of advice for them?
Oh man, that's it. It's just so, we do so many things. We're jack of all trades and trying to be a master of all of them. Also, I think the best thing is to, you have to, when you're at work, engage. Learn your job, learn your tools, learn your crafts. Be the best that you can be. Whatever that tool is that's needed for that particular call. Be that tool and be effective. Learn your partners, even the ones you don't get along with. Pick the brains of the older firefighters. Actually treat people like they're your family. Even your patients. You learn something, especially, and we're talking about mental health, and, think about the homeless population that's out there and how many of them are war vets and have PTSD. Check in with them too. It doesn't hurt, calls are lasting 15, 20 minutes, if that. Engage. Ask them something. Oh, the guys, my Pasadena guys will laugh like, oh, you used to work on Apache helicopters. You never know what these guys' jobs were and stuff like that. Engage, do your best, work your hardest, if you're trying to get hired, keep going. Whatever it is you're doing, get 100% to it. Guys are getting hired at 19. Guys are getting hired at 38. Guys are getting hired at 45. Guys are having life changes, and it doesn't matter what race, what gender, what nationality. If this is what you want to do, go and do it. It's the guys and gals that don't stop, that don't give up. Those are the ones that get hired. And Bree, you, G, you also, we've run into the people like, yeah, I was going to do that. I wanted to do that, but then I went and did this. And, life happens and you do have to go do other things. But stick to it and obtain the goals that you're looking for.
All right, Darnell. So how we like to end these out, brother, is 5 rapid fire questions. And knowing you, I know it's going to be a little tough because you do love to speak. So you can only answer in one word or one phrase, all right?
Holding me back.
So, I know I'm holding you back a little bit, but let's make it happen. So how it works, Bree's going to ask you 5 questions. It's fun and light and kind of just off the cuff. So, Bree, please take it.
Okay, first question. What is your favorite meal to make at the firehouse?
Ooh, lasagna.
Okay. All right, number 2. What would you sing at karaoke night?
Genuine Pony.
That's a really good song.
Shut it down.
Number 3. What's the longest you've gone without sleep?
3 days.
3 days.
All right, no big deal. 3 days. Number 4. If you had a warning label, what would yours say?
Oh, man. Caution, sarcastic.
And last one. What is one word to describe your family?
Loving.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Darnell, I can't thank you enough. You are a powerful, powerful leader. And thank you so much for coming on. Your energy definitely speaks volumes. And I know we want to have you back on to speak. And I know that you definitely love to speak, so you'll be back on.
Let's do it.
Just want to say thank you, brother.
For sure. Thank you, guys. I enjoyed it. Again, I love what you guys are doing for the mental health of firefighters. That's the job title. It's really mental health of people, and this is our occupation. So that's a beautiful thing that you guys are doing. Thank you, Project Mayday, for having me. Thanks for reaching out. I'd love to come back anytime. I got a lot of stuff.
All right, this is Project Mayday. Call out.
Call out.